Now, this British scientist called Dr. Stevens, he's an interesting man. He has more faith than Christians, and I applaud him for the faith that he has because he believes in the Big Bang. Now, I'm British, I was born British, and I know we British have a kind of way about stuff. We know everything. Like in this field, we're gonna make sure that we start from from zero, and we go right up to a million. We're gonna be as deep as we can in that area. Now, I'm not sure what are the studies required as foundation for astrophysics and to be a proponent of the Big Bang Theory. Now, I'm no expert in the Big Bang Theory, but what I understand is that some gases formed a big explosion. And when the dust cleared, you had a world that was organized. You had people in it. You had trees, and you had fish, and you had water, and you had everything real in order. And I'm wondering if that is how it really happened, or even if it could happen over centuries or even millennia and so on. Or in Puerto Rico, they say siglo. Siglos y siglos. That's ages and ages and a whole long, long, long time. And so I remember though, in my elementary science, chemistry in high school, there were some laws that I had to learn. Boyle's law, and I think it was Charles' law, and all these laws. And one of them was that you cannot create matter nor destroy matter. And I understood it in a way in high school. It meant that if you take a house and you burn it, you're not destroying it. You're just changing its form. So that if you could weigh the oxygen that you can use to burn down that building, plus the building, the ash and the carbon dioxide that are produced were equal to the weight of the building plus the oxygen that you use. So in other words, you just change the form, but the weight still remains the same. And you cannot. Nobody has been able to take something like a dead person and bring them back to life. All right. So when you kill, you can't restore. I mean, God can, and perhaps this is why creation will always trump the Big Bang Theory. But the question is though, we have enough information now about genetics. We have a lot more information about chemistry and physics and math and so forth. I mean, we need to re-examine this Big Bang Theory. Now, if this Big Bang was involved with dust and gases, we need to look at what dust is composed of and what those gases were, and see if we could say that we were able to get, a tree, and we were able to get sand, and we were able to get human flesh and so forth. Because I don't see anything in those gas and the dust will form proteins, and that's what human life is of. Furthermore, they're saying that, and I did this when I go to the museum in Guyana as a elementary school student. They will say that life started in the sea with some one-cell animals, and they came on the beach after being tormented in the seas by predators, and then they climbed into trees, and then they started to fly, and then the whole 9 yards. Again, I mean, these things are determined by genetics and the environment. Even if I'm afraid of something, I can't become a bee. I can't become like a bee, or I can't become like a leopard. I'm gonna still be a human being. All gonna happen is that I might wear myself down, get crazy because of the worry and the fear and all that kind of stuff. Or if I think hard, to be white is great. Let me try and be white. If you don't want to bleach yourself like Michael, it ain't gonna happen. You know what I mean? So how they can explain a one-cell animal is going to become a complex animal like a human being, or even like a bird, with all these various systems, the elementary system, the excretory and alimentary system, the circulatory system, the pulmonary system, breathing and so on. I mean, they're so different. It seems to me that creation more explained it, where the good book says that God formed this human and then he breathed into it and became a living soul. Alright? So, first of all, we can look at whether you could, create matter or destroy matter. And this Big Bang Theory, it could never have created complex things from nothing. And in chemistry and in genetics, we know that every time two people come together, they're going to be making people like themselves. Color, skin, eyes, hair, height, and all that kind of stuff. So how can me and my little black woman going to make a white child? I mean, even in this scenario here, it's impossible. My wife can't come and tell me, oh, look, this nice little white baby I have here. It's your son. Yeah, right. It's time to divorce you, woman, because the stupidness you're telling me, it could never happen. There's no way in a million times, in 100 billion times that you and me gonna have sex and you're gonna make some white child, some child looking like white and saying it's mine. Come on, you can't do that. In the court, I rather than execute me, I pay no child support to that. I ended that period. Don't mind me married, I don't want that child period because it's not my child. You know what I mean? Or two white people, well, of course in Puerto Rico anything happens, but I'm talking like, real deal in Europe and stuff. Two white people have sex and then the little black boy and then the wife telling the husband, oh, this is your baby. Oh, the genetic thing, this is evolution. It can't happen. A white man and a white woman that have never had, black family and so on, cannot make a black child. And black family, except they had a kind of white thing done somewhere along the line, they cannot have a white child. It's impossible. So these things are determined genetically, and the only way it's going to change is if something happened to that genetic code. And even way back in primitive times, they had that technology. Even today, they don't have the technology to go in and me and my wife take our little sperm and her egg and do whatever and change the eye color and the height and all that. They can't do it. So when Dr. Stephen says that he believes in the Big Bang, I think he has more faith than a lot of Christians because he believes in something that is impossible. He of himself figured this out and he said, I believe in that and I'm going to make it work and I'm going to make it make sensible and so forth. Because you see, faith comes from the Greek pistis and means to trust, to have confidence and to believe, especially God and so on. And God says the substance of faith, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So I hope that I will live to see the new year, although I don't have any evidence that will happen. I believe it's going to happen because God has worked with me in the past. We made predictions that have come true. Like, for example, I got a doctorate. We had planned that a long time ago. It happened. I didn't know it was going to happen. I didn't see where the money is going to come from, but it happened. And so, he assures me that I will be around for the new year. And that is good because, you see, I cannot have that sort of a perception to see things like, like I lived all that time. We can't do it. So if it is that I'm going to say I'm going to live till next year, it has to be a faith thing. And it has to be because God and I have had an intimate relationship and we talked about it and he says, I'm going to see that you live until January and beyond. Then is the only time I can go out and boast, or I can go out and say, I will live until January, please God. Lord, let me live until January, in other words. So I have to have God in my faith maneuvers. So that for him to, on his own, without God's help, to say that there was a Big Bang, and that this is how this big organized world came from. I mean, he has enormous faith. And if Christians only had a fraction of that, they could walk on water. They could bring the dead back to life. So I must congratulate Dr. Stevens for his profound faith in this evolution and in this Big Bang theory. But no, you're not right, sir, because there's absolutely nowhere any Big Bang could organize our Earth and a world like this, with trees and everything going with the photosynthesis and the food chain and all the whole stuff like that. And then, you can't change around one cell to a complex cell because it doesn't happen to that. I mean, the genetics are such that unless you have sex with something else and introduce some characteristics of genetics into your gene pool, you can't say that you're going to have anything different. Okay? So I'm sorry, but I can't accept your view, Mr. Dr. Stevens.